They always say you can't go home again, but I think they should add a little asterisk to that. It should really say, you can't go home again, especially if your parents sided with your cheating ex and then denied you shelter after your divorce. And now, 5 years later, they want back in after hearing about your engagement. It's a mouthful, I know, but honestly, it perfectly sums up my life right now. It's wild, like, it feels like it's been a whole other lifetime since everything went down with Nick. He and I were together forever. Literally. We were childhood sweethearts because his parents and mine were friends. So we were basically raised together. We had this whole on-again, off-again thing through high school. But then we turned 22, and our parents got it in their heads that we needed to get married. So we did. We just went along with it. We fought a lot after we got married. And honestly, he was never a great guy. I mean, he cheated on me, even though I never did, not once. I found out he was cheating one day when I was on his phone. My suspicions had been brewing for ages, and I just couldn't shake this feeling. So, one day, I just went for it. I checked his texts, and that's when I saw it all. Our marriage was over, just like that. But what really got me was how little he cared, how little he thought it would bother me. He was cheating on me with his receptionist, a girl he'd known for months. It wasn't some one-night stand. It was a whole thing. We'd been together for over a decade before we even got married. And then he just threw it all away. I was so hurt. The first thing I did was just leave the house. I had no plan, no idea where to go. My first thought was my parents. Because who else do you go to when you're completely blindsided and heartbroken? I should have known better. Nick must have known I'd go there. And I can only assume he called them first to get ahead of me. I stood outside their door, begging them to let me in for just a few days, just until I could figure things out. But they wouldn't. They just stood there, in their doorway, and told me that Nick was still my husband, and that we could just figure things out. I told them he cheated on me, but they didn't even seem to care. Turns out, they already knew. Nick had confessed it all to them when he called. And you know what they said? They said, one person cannot break a marriage. They basically blamed me, right to my face. I wasn't even surprised, though that's always been their attitude toward me. I don't know why I ever expected them to help. I had told them for years that I was unhappy with Nick, that I didn't want to be with him, even before I found out he was cheating. But they always just told me I was too ambitious, and that I wasn't giving my marriage enough time, that I was the reason it was failing. When I showed up on their doorstep that day, they accused me of being too focused on my work and not my marriage. I was so fed up. I just left. I didn't say another word. I just walked away. Thank God for my friends. My friend was so kind and let me stay with her for 2 weeks. I met with a lawyer, filed for divorce, and found an apartment all in those 2 weeks. My friends were the only ones who supported me emotionally. And honestly, I don't know what I would have done without them. My parents, on the other hand, never reached out. Not once. Except to call me to tell me how awful I was for leaving my faithful husband. Nick kept trying to contact me. He insisted we could work it out, that we could go to marriage counseling. He was so sorry, so apologetic. Like that was going to magically fix everything. My parents, of course, were in his corner. They urged me to forgive him. I was done. I just cut them out. I stopped taking their calls, and I haven't talked to them since. We see each other at family functions, but we just ignore each other. I'm okay with it, though they've never once shown any remorse for what they did, what they said, and what they didn't do, which was just be there for me. I haven't talked to them in 5 years, and I don't regret it, not even a little bit. In the last 3 years, though, I've had some of the best times of my life. That's because I met Charlie. We're engaged now. He's incredible. We met at his restaurant. I was out with friends, and he just came up and started talking to me. It took me a few weeks to realize that he owned the place. I was impressed, of course, but it didn't really matter to me. I've always been a working woman, and I never planned on changing that. Unlike my parents, who were always telling me I should be a stay-at-home wife, I'm just not like that. I've never wanted his money. I guess my parents found out about him when a relative told them I got engaged. I had announced it on social media just a few days before. They must have done some research on Charlie and his family, because 3 days after I announced it, they emailed me, they congratulated me, and apologized for their past behavior. In the email, they said they were sorry for not contacting me in all these years, and they asked to attend my wedding. They were weirdly vague about Charlie and his family, which was smart, but I'm not an idiot. It was so strange that they contacted me right after my engagement. If they were so sorry and so ready to reconnect, Why hadn't they done it before? I didn't respond. Then they emailed me again, and that's when they showed their true colors. In the second email, they admitted they had looked up Charlie and his family. They said they liked my choice. It made me sick. They basically assumed I was with him for a reason, and it got worse. They admitted that they had reached out to me because of Charlie. They told me they were proud of my prestigious lineage now. It was so arrogant. It was clear that they were interested in me only because I was marrying into a rich family. I was so irritated. I blocked them. I just couldn't deal with it. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. A few days of peace went by. Then, last night, they showed up at our apartment. I've lived with Charlie for a year now, and only a few friends and close relatives know where we live. I guess they found out somehow. When Charlie and I opened the door, we were shocked to see them standing there. He already knew about my parents. I had told him everything, and he understood why I wasn't close to them. He was mad on my behalf. He opened the door, and when he saw them, he called me over to talk to them. I was so thankful he stayed with me. He held my hand the whole time, knowing I was struggling. My parents apologized again. They said they didn't want to seem more interested in Charlie and his family than in my forgiveness. They said they had wanted to contact me for years but didn't because they knew I would be mad. But those were just lame excuses. I told them they were insensitive about my divorce and that I didn't need them. I was harsh, and I told them to leave. My dad yelled at me as I went to close the door. He called me an egoistic and cocky little girl and said I couldn't treat them that way, especially now that I was marrying into a rich family. I was so mad. What a ridiculous thing to say. I turned to him and told him this had nothing to do with Charlie or his family. It was about their behavior. 5 years had gone by, and they still hadn't changed. I knew then that cutting them out of my life was the right thing to do. I never intended to forgive them. Not really. After that, they completely ignored me and started talking to Charlie instead. They tried to warn him about my attitude problem and how it had ended my last marriage. I couldn't believe it. They told Charlie that Nick and his receptionist were happily married with a child. They said I could never have a happy family because I always had to be the superior one. They said I had done it before by focusing too much on work and not my marriage. And now I was doing it again because I was marrying a rich guy. They said my superiority complex was the reason I lost my first marriage, and that it would cost me my second one. Charlie just ignored them. He told them he didn't need dating advice from people like them, and that he was happy I was marrying him because he was rich, and that I could brag about it all I wanted. He told them that whether I had an attitude problem or not was his business, not theirs, and that they didn't need to worry about us because we weren't worried about them. The last thing he said just floored me. He told them he was happy Nick had found love with the woman he cheated on me with, because it showed that they still supported Nick over me, even after 5 years. He told them that their opinion didn't matter anyway, since they weren't close to our net worth. Then closed the door on them. They just stood there, completely stunned and panicked. Eventually, they left. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. My paternal grandparents called me the next morning. It was so surprising because my grandparents and I have always been close. They've always been neutral about everything with my parents. But not this time. They lectured me about Charlie and how I had mistreated my parents. They said my parents had made mistakes, but they had always tried to be good to me, which I guess is true. I mean, they did support me and try to make my life comfortable. But our relationship has always been tense and complicated. Even when I was a kid, my grandparents said I should be grateful. They told me not to gloat about my wealth, especially since it wasn't mine. They said I couldn't brag because I was still in my parents' income category. I told them it wasn't me who said that. It was Charlie. They just ignored me. They said it didn't matter who said it, as long as I allowed it, and that it humiliated my parents. They said I should have stood up for them, even if I wasn't going to forgive them. When I told them what my parents had said about me, they said it didn't matter. Their only concern was my behavior. They said they were going to talk to my parents separately about their errors. I was so frustrated. The conversation was going in circles. They just didn't get it. The last thing they said to me was that a man who disrespected my family would never appreciate me. Then they hung up. I love Charlie, and I don't think he did anything wrong. But my grandparents' reaction made me wonder if I had handled the situation correctly. It's just so frustrating. Charlie and I talked about everything. He said he felt no obligation to my family, and that he wasn't going to apologize. He said they kept accusing me of being smug and arrogant, so he just decided to act that way. And he's right. After talking to my friends and reading all the comments online, I don't think either of us did anything wrong. He said he knew my parents were awful just from what I had told him, and meeting them just confirmed it. He told me to never forgive or talk to them again. And I agree with him completely. He made a good point. He said my grandparents had been conveniently neutral for the past 5 years. They avoided all the drama. But as soon as their precious son was offended, they jumped in to defend him. He told me to think about that before I acted on their advice. And he's right. For the last 5 years, when I've tried to vent to them about my parents, they just told me I needed to figure it out on my own and that they didn't want to get involved. I stopped talking to them after that because I knew they wouldn't listen. Now, I see that their neutrality was just a way to stay on good terms with everyone. They prioritize my dad over me. I guess they're done with being diplomatic. I was an idiot to expect them to act any differently. I'm so glad Charlie's here. He seems angrier than me about all of this, and it just shows how much he loves me. About a week later, my grandparents called me again. I had blocked them. So they created a new email account to contact me. They said my handling of the situation disappointed them. They were surprised that I had blocked them because they had always tried their best to be on my side. But then they contradicted themselves. They said they agreed that staying diplomatic was a mistake and that they should have told me that my parents were right and that I had an attitude problem. They just repeated what my parents said. They couldn't come up with a single original thought. They just repeated the same unsubstantiated assertions over and over again. They even made it personal for no reason. I was so annoyed. Charlie said he was glad we hadn't apologized or contacted them because they clearly didn't deserve it. He said they were greedy and that my family had the attitude problem, not me. He's so right. I didn't reply to that email, and I won't. There's no point in arguing with them. They've already made me the villain in their minds. They'll just keep making excuses to blame me. They're probably just worried that I'm marrying someone rich and cutting them out of my life, so they won't be able to benefit from my marriage. It's so ironic. They think I'm the one who's greedy, but they're the ones who are completely motivated by money. Maybe they do realize that their bitterness and resentment have made things worse for them, but they just don't care. Either way, they're out of my life for good. My last update was 2 months ago, and honestly, I forgot about all this drama. My parents and grandparents didn't contact me again, and I got busy planning my wedding. But then, 3 days ago, my parents came back. This time, Charlie wasn't home. I didn't open the door. I just told them through the door that I didn't want to argue and that they needed to leave. I told them I would call the police, and that it would be very bad for them. They didn't leave, though my dad said he didn't expect me to forgive them. He just wanted to apologize for how he and my mom had acted last time. He said they had finally realized they had made things worse by refusing to accept that I wasn't ready to forgive them. He said they were sorry for their failures and would apologize until I forgave them. My mom even said they would wait the rest of their lives for me to forgive them. It was a lot. I felt forced to open the door. I told them I didn't know what to say or how to feel. I told them I wasn't ready to deal with them. I calmly told them they didn't need to apologize anymore. I needed some space. I said maybe in a few years I would contact them. I just wanted to lighten the mood. It worked. My mom said she would love to hear from me someday. She hoped I would forgive them. She started crying and said they had always been too arrogant and proud to accept that they weren't the best parents. She said they were misled into thinking I had an attitude problem. She said they had been so confused about me, sometimes thinking I was right and sometimes thinking Nick was right. That, she said, was why their attitude toward me was so inconsistent. I don't accept that excuse. I'm their daughter. They should know my personality. They didn't spend much time with me when I was a kid, so it's not surprising that they don't know me well. That's their fault, not mine. I didn't want to start a whole new argument, so I just told them what had happened couldn't be changed. I told them that if they wanted me to forgive them, they had to stay away and let me heal. They left quietly without another word. When Charlie got home, I told him everything. He said it could have been worse and that he was glad it wasn't. I'm trying not to think about my parents anymore. I just don't know how to feel. All I'm focused on right now is my wedding. I got married last week. It was incredible. Of course, my immediate family didn't go. They weren't invited. My maternal grandparents live out of state, and my grandpa is sick, so they couldn't make it. It was a small wedding, but I didn't care. Charlie was with me, and his family welcomed me with open arms. It was so nice to feel like I was a part of a family. A real family. 2 days after the wedding, my parents called me from a burner phone. My cousins had told them about the wedding. They said they were so happy for me and wished me a joyful new life. I thanked them and didn't say anything else. I know some of you might think I should have called the police on them. Some might say I should have just been angrier with them, but I think this way is better. It just would have caused more drama, more hatred, more anger. This way, things are more neutral. I don't think I'll ever be close to my parents, but we're not fighting anymore, and that seems ideal for everyone. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit that notification bell to stay updated with more stories just like this.